After making my last video about the downsides of foldables, the cases, the accessories, the durability, the normal arguments, it actually got me thinking, why do I keep coming back to foldables? Because to be honest, after using phones like the Oppo, the Samsung, Honor Magic, even the Pixel Fold, going back to a slab phone for me just feels extremely limited. And that's what I want to talk about today. Not the hype, not the marketing, not the specs on paper. I want to talk about the real upside of foldables in 2026 and why I honestly believe that we've passed the point of just being cool new tech. They're actually better for a lot of folks. Let's talk about it. The biggest thing people don't understand about foldables is how they actually feel in the real world. Until you've actually used one daily for a long time, you really don't see or understand what the difference is. Because when people compare foldables to slab phones, they typically compare camera specs, battery specs, thickness, weight, and that's because the power, the processor are right there the same. For example, what we got here is the Samsung Ultra versus the Z Fold. And they both actually have the same chip, the same software, the same UI, and the 8.5 One UI by Samsung. So there's no difference there. And as far as the weight these days, they are right there in comparison. The only difference when it comes to specs, yes, is the cameras. And guess what? Samsung has decided to get rid of the extra camera because they're finally realizing that a 10 megapixel 3 times zoom just doesn't cut it today. And I'm really hoping they realize that in their Z Fold line as well. But if we overlook that flaw in the Z Fold or in the S lineup, because a lot of the newer foldables have the camera system that you have in the S20 or the S Ultra series or the Samsung Ultra series, whatever you want to call it, with a 200 megapixel main shooter and then 50 megapixel all around on the others. That's what they really need to go to with the Samsung. But we do have that in other phones today. So that camera spec difference is pretty much on the wayside if you pick the right phone. Now, some folks just like the feel of a bar phone and how tall it is, how big it is, because it is quite a bit larger than what we have here. But the difference being that it's thinner no longer exists, as you can see here. And then, of course, if it's the size that you want, well, once you open up the fold, the size difference is no longer important because now you literally have a tablet to work with. So when you talk about foldables and size these days, they're so doggone close. Even looking at the height, it's right there. And then if you look at a phone with a real width, there's not a whole lot of difference. As you can see, that Ultra is not quite or not that much larger. Yes, this is a 6.6 versus a 6.9. So you see they're a lot closer than they used to be. And then there's multitasking. It's not even close. This right here is probably the number one reason why I struggle with even thinking about going back to a bar phone. I mean, look at this. This is two Honor Magic 8 Pro. It's just slightly larger than the Honor Magic V5. And as you can see, we're looking at the screen, they look very similar. But then when you want to multitask, that's when everything falls apart for a slab phone. I mean, you just open up a bar phone and you've got so much multitasking at your fingertips. I mean, you just touch and you can open up 2 apps at once, and when you open up apps like this and you got 2 side by side, you just can't even match that here. Now, of course, one could argue that you can split screen on the S25 or S26 Ultra. Yeah, you could split screen, but that's really not so easy to work with. If you're really trying to multitask, splitting a screen like this, it's nowhere near the same as splitting a screen, especially when all you gotta do is touch a button and you have the split screens right there. I'm sorry, there's no way that can compete. If you turn this, do they turn? Okay. So even there, not the same, folks. So multitasking is definitely something that you want to do on a foldable. Then there's media consumption, just reading books, reading magazines, reading comic books. A lot of folks like to do that, or just browsing the web. You can't really compare the two. I mean, look at this. You got this small little thing. Okay. Looking at the list here, compared to looking at this, it's just not the same. And then, of course, if we click on the video and play, that's a huge difference. Now, yes, turn your phone. There you go. And look at that. Even there, it does not compare, you know? And yes, you can go full screen, you know, then you're getting closer. You can see right there. But then take this one and turn it and go full screen. And now look what you got. It does not compare. So as far as consumption and browsing, again, that is something that you get more of on a foldable. And if you want to talk about browsing and search in the web, and just even something like shopping, simplest shopping, check it out. You got two apps side by side. You can browse and shop and compare and price. You just can't do that on a bar phone. Now, it still does come down to personal preference, and there's still a lot of folks that say, well, but these bar phones are just huge compared to a foldable without unfolding it. But look at that. It's not that much difference. I mean, yes, it is a little bit larger, but it's also a larger footprint in your pocket versus something like this, because it's definitely not thinner. And then there's real productivity. I mean, check this out. Here you go with the foldable. You open up. Look at that size. Look at that canvas you have to work with to edit this video. It's huge compared to something like this, which is really tiny, really small. It's nowhere near the same form factor. And when you're talking, they both have the same chipset inside. There's no faster processing on the bar phone. Now let's get down to the camera experience. Is the camera experience better on a foldable than it is a standard bar phone? Now I'm just talking experience. I'm not talking about cameras, because you compare these two cameras, of course, the Ultra is going to beat out the Fold. But then you bring in something like this with a 200 megapixel main shooter and 50 megapixel on all the other lenses. This one's going to win. Now, individual preference and interpretation may vary, but I think you understand what I'm saying. You can't go by the camera specs themselves. So why am I saying this is a better experience? Well, if you want to take a selfie on this thing, you have, what is it, a 10 megapixel, or I think they're up to maybe a 20 megapixel camera right here. That's okay, but it has its limits. And yes, on this one, again, you have a 20 megapixel camera, which has its limits. So if you don't want to use the selfie camera, well, guess what? On a foldable, you can open it up and you hit something like this. Now you can see you've got the camera on the outside using as a selfie. And see there, I can see myself. And of course, you can see it right there in frame. So now it's using the best cameras on the system as your selfie. You can't do that on a bar phone. And then, of course, if you want to set it up so you see previews of your images, you could take and split the screen that way. Check this out. Take a shot. Okay, that turned out okay. I can go on to the next shot, and you could just keep going. So to me, that is a much better experience, especially if you're taking portrait shots and you want to make sure they turned out right away. Now, if you want to do something similar here, you could take a shot and then you have to go here if you want to preview. There you go. Oh, I could preview it. And then you got to go back and then back again to get back into taking a shot. It's so disruptive. So you tell me, which one has the better camera experience? So I think the bottom line is the foldables are a lot more mature today than they used to be. I mean, you can get cases for them, so you can use the magnet in the back for things like you got here a extra hard drive, if you want to do that. And even in phones like the Oppo Find N6, you have that MagSafe built on the back with accessories like this. This is a battery charger. Now, of course, this one having a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, it's not likely that you're going to need this, but it is available. So those folks that say, you don't get enough accessories for foldables these days, check out this video here where I go into more detail about that myth. So what's the main difference between the foldable and the bar phone these days? Well, the price. But check this out. They're not getting too far off. If you want to get this thing up there with 512 gigabytes of storage, and or at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. You got to get the terabyte storage. You're paying about as much as you are for a foldable. This one comes with 512 and 16 gigabytes of RAM, close to the same price as this thing if you get that terabyte storage to get the 16 gigabytes of RAM. So you could pay upwards around $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 for a bar phone these days, which is really ridiculous. And if you've seen my last video on the Motorola Razr Fold, I got that thing for $1,000. You can't get anything like that for $1,000 on any of these. Now, yes, I did have to trade in a phone, but they ran a special, an additional $500 trade-in value. That brought it down. Now, you can get those additional trade-in values for the bar phone, so you can save money. So that's not really a big argument or plus for the foldables, but that's just to say foldables are expensive, but you can find great deals on them. So all this to say, these are some of the upsides that nobody talks about on the foldables. They really are great devices. And if you are a person that likes to consume technology or consume entertainment or are very productive on your phone, you just can't beat a foldable. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think? Are bar phones really becoming more popular? And with the iPhone Fold coming out, are they going to be even more popular? Are they gaining a lot of speed? Now, if you're watching this video, you might have gained some more interest in foldables and what they're all about. Well, I've got a lot of videos on that. So you want to make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on those. You can see all kinds of foldable videos. If you want to see one of my most recent foldable comparison videos, check this one out. Until next time, have a wonderful day and God bless.